48 hours. That's exactly how long the raise feels like progress. After that, something happens that no one prepares you for, not your manager, not any personal finance book you've ever picked up. The money doesn't disappear in one dramatic decision. It evaporates quietly, in increments too small to notice and too consistent to stop. By month 3, you're earning $500 more per month, and your savings balance is exactly where it was before, flat or lower. You didn't make any reckless choices, you just upgraded slightly everywhere at once. The coffee that used to feel like a treat is now Tuesday. The subscription you meant to cancel is still billing. The dinner out that used to mark a real occasion is now just how you end a long Wednesday. You work harder than last year, you earn more than last year, and you're no closer to the life you're actually working toward. If that burns a little, it's because you're not facing a spending problem. You're facing a thermostat problem, and the thermostat has been running on autopilot this entire time. There's a mechanism at work here, studied in behavioral economics for decades, that treats income as a social signal, not just to the people around you, to yourself. When your earnings increase, the brain automatically recalibrates what normal looks like, not because you're undisciplined, because that's precisely what it's built to do. Every paycheck that arrives without a deliberate counter-instruction is a paycheck the thermostat claims, and the thermostat only moves in one direction. Here's what changes everything. The moment you can see this mechanism clearly, it loses its grip on you. But the window where you can act is shorter than you think, and it opens the second your raise is confirmed. Think of your lifestyle as a room with a thermostat on the wall. Right now it's set to 70 degrees. That number is your current baseline, the spending level that feels natural, expected, ordinary. When your income rises, the thermostat doesn't ask permission. It reads the new temperature and recalibrates: 72, then 75, then 78. You don't feel the shift because it happens gradually, but by the time you notice the room is warmer, the new setting has already been accepted as normal. Going back to 70 wouldn't feel like discipline, it would feel like suffering. Lifestyle creep is always framed as a discipline failure. It isn't, it's a thermostat failure, and you've been trying to solve it by arguing with the machine instead of reprogramming it. The mechanism moves through 3 stages. Most personal finance content stops at stage 1, which is exactly why most personal finance advice fails to stick. Stage 1 is what researchers call deserved upgrades. These are the purchases that feel earned because individually they are. You worked for this raise. A slightly better coffee is not a character flaw. The gym membership you kept delaying isn't recklessness. The shoes that don't destroy your feet after 8 hours on your feet are not extravagance. The problem isn't any single one of them, it's that they don't arrive individually. They arrive simultaneously in the first 60 days after income increases, and together they do exactly one thing: they reset the baseline. What was a reward becomes the minimum. Stage 2 is the new normal. The thermostat has fully adjusted. The upgraded baseline no longer registers as comfort, it registers as expectation. Eating out on a weeknight doesn't feel like a treat anymore. It feels like Tuesday. The subscription feels necessary. The slightly nicer version of everything feels like the version of yourself that you've earned the right to be. The frugal habits that build real wealth start to feel vaguely embarrassing here. Not because your values changed, but because the reference point shifted under you while you were working hard. And then there's stage 3. This is where the real damage happens, and almost no one talks about it. Behavioral economists call it the hedonic floor, the point where cutting back no longer feels like saving money. It feels like personal regression, like becoming a smaller version of who you've worked to become. By stage 3, the lifestyle upgrade has stopped being a spending decision. It's become load-bearing. The apartment isn't square footage anymore, it's evidence of arrival. The restaurant is a marker of the kind of person you are now. The subscription, the upgrade, the slightly nicer everything, they're structural walls in the architecture of your identity. And this is where the savings gap stops being a math problem. If it were a math problem, you'd have solved it already. You're not bad at subtraction. The numbers aren't the issue. The issue is that at stage 3, cutting back doesn't feel like a financial decision. It feels like a loss of self, and no budget spreadsheet was ever built to handle that. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher who understood scarcity not as an abstraction, but as a daily reality, having spent part of his life enslaved, wrote something that most people read as advice about poverty. It is actually the most precise diagnosis of the modern income trap ever recorded. He wrote, "A person is not enslaved by poverty. They are enslaved by desire, because desire expands to fill whatever space it's given." What Epictetus mapped 2,000 years ago, behavioral economics now confirms with data. The desire doesn't fill your income, it consumes it. Then it recalibrates and waits for the next raise to consume again, until you're earning 3 times what you started with, and financial independence still feels like a concept you're working toward rather than a coordinate you're approaching. The income desire loop is not a personal weakness. It is a mechanical feature of human psychology, and mechanical problems require mechanical solutions, not motivational ones. Here's what makes stage 3 so difficult to exit. By the time you recognize you're in it, your money management habits have reorganized around the new identity. Pulling back doesn't feel like discipline, it feels like punishment for success. The brain uses consumption as a shorthand for status, and status in every social architecture humans have ever built is wired as survival relevant. This isn't vanity, it's neurology. The system is working exactly as designed, you were never the problem. The frugal habits that compound into wealth aren't built by resisting this system through sheer force of will. They're built by engineering your finances to operate outside the window where the system can influence your decisions at all. Most wealth-building advice tells you to spend less, want less, try harder, but you've tried harder, and the thermostat doesn't respond to effort, it responds to architecture. Which brings us to the only question that actually matters here. How do you get to the thermostat before it recalibrates? There's a specific window, brief, predictable, and almost universally ignored, that exists between the moment your raise is confirmed and the moment your brain accepts the new income level as its new normal. That window is where everything changes. The savings automation technique that actually works doesn't target your spending at all. It targets that window. Here's exactly how it functions. Before the raise becomes visible income, ideally 2 to 3 business days before the first paycheck arrives at the new rate, you update the automatic transfer from your primary checking account to a separate savings or investment account. You increase it by the full raise amount, or the majority of it. The raise never enters your spendable environment. It never registers in the psychological space where the thermostat reads temperature. It moves directly and automatically into a high-yield savings account or a brokerage account before the recalibration window can close. This is not a budgeting technique, it is not a restriction, it is thermostat engineering. You're not telling yourself to spend less after the fact. You're preventing the thermostat from reading a higher number in the first place. Behavioral economists call this pre-commitment, a decision made outside the emotional context that would otherwise compromise it. The Stoics called the underlying principle proherses, the deliberate choice of what to value before circumstance makes the choice for you. What Epictetus described as the foundation of freedom, behavioral science now executes in a 2-minute account setup. When the automation is in place, something unexpected happens. The internal friction disappears, not because you have more willpower, but because the decision has already been made before the context that would undermine it ever arrives. You stop fighting the thermostat, because by the time the upgrade instinct wakes up and looks around, the raise is already deployed. There's no window to exploit, no deserved upgrade phase to set a new floor, no quiet identity drift that compounds for years. The wealth-building habits that separate those who achieve financial independence from those who merely earn more are not habits of deprivation. They're habits of predecision, of designing the system before the system designs you. Savings automation, used this way, isn't about restricting your life. It's about removing the decision from the room where it was always going to lose. Epictetus didn't say, want nothing. He said, know what you want and choose it deliberately. Everything else is noise that fills the space you leave empty. The person who builds real wealth isn't the one who spends less. It's the one who chose a lower identity set point before the thermostat could choose for them, not from sacrifice, from clarity, from the understanding that financial independence is more aligned with who they want to become than any lifestyle upgrade could ever be. Freedom doesn't arrive as a number in an account. It arrives as the moment you realize the version of yourself that the thermostat was quietly building, one deserved upgrade at a time, was never the version you actually chose. The raise is coming, the window is brief. Now you know exactly what to do before it closes.